Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Millennial Money Monday. Do not forget to like and subscribe down below and tune in again next week for another Millennial Money Monday episode. Watched my last episode where I talked a little bit about how I saved more than $10,000 as a college student. You're probably wondering, okay, great, I know what an emergency fund is, but where exactly do I put my emergency fund? And that is what today's episode is about. It's all about high yield savings accounts. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what is a high yield savings account, some of the characteristics you should look for in a high yield savings account, and some of the best high yield savings accounts in 2020. There are going to be many concepts that I talk about today that might be a little foreign to you, some concepts that you've never really heard before. Don't worry, even if I don't explain on camera, I will make sure to put the definition in the video, and also I'll make sure to leave links down below to some of the words I talk about today. So I talked about in my last video the concept of when you get a paycheck, you really want to start putting money away after you've paid all of your necessary bills. But where do you put that money? It depends on where you are in your savings journey. If you are on step one of creating your emergency fund, then you want to put that money into a savings account, but specifically a high yield savings account, and not invest it. Why? Because when you invest money, the stock market has different trends in the stock market. Things are kind of uncertain. But if you put it into a savings account, specifically a high yield savings account, you're guaranteed that you're going to have that money. That money's not going to fluctuate like it does in the stock market. High yield savings accounts are great places to keep money for your emergency fund or for anything that you know that you're not going to need to pay for it in a couple months. For example, maybe you're saving up for a vacation and you need a place to keep money. Might as well keep that money inside a high yield savings account where you can start accruing a little bit more interest versus just leaving that money in a savings account. Another thing that I'm doing personally is leaving money inside my high yield savings account for student loans that I plan to pay off in several months once I graduate. So why put your money in a high yield savings account versus a regular savings account? And what exactly is the difference between a high yield savings account and a savings account? Well, they're both savings accounts. Typically speaking, savings accounts are with commercial banks, big commercial banks. Think Chase, for example, or Wells Fargo, or Bank of America. But typically speaking, these banks have a really low APY, or annual percentage yield, which is interest that you get back for leaving your money in a savings account. Some people probably don't know that when you leave your money inside of a savings account with a bank, you are most likely getting paid interest or a little bit of extra money at the end of each month or each year, even just for having your money in that savings account. But here's the catch. Oftentimes when you leave your money in just a regular savings account, it doesn't collect much interest. Versus if you leave it in a high yield savings account, it's going to collect a lot more interest. Now, clearly you can see the benefits of leaving your money inside a high yield savings account, but I think it's really important to know what you should look for when choosing which high yield savings account is best for you. When looking for a high yield savings account, you want to be aware of balances. Some high yield savings accounts will say you need to have a minimum of $1,000 to open up a savings account with us. I would definitely be wary of that and go and find another high yield savings account where that's not the case. Another thing is minimum balances to keep that account open. You never want to find a high yield savings account where it says that you have to have $100 with us at all times or $200 or $300 with us at all times. Typically speaking, even savings accounts with commercial banks will have this minimum and then you'll get penalized if you don't have that amount of money sitting in that savings account at all times. And then sometimes what they do is add on a bigger fee for an annual fee that you have to pay to waive this minimum balance. Do not even bother with that and find yourself in a high yield savings account that's not going to have any sort of minimum balances. Also, when choosing a high yield savings account, you want to make sure that there's some sort of insurance. If you don't see any sort of insurance, for example, FDIC insurance, backing it up, be very wary and do not bank with them. What this FDIC insurance means is that you will be insured up to, normally speaking, $250,000 of your money. I think it's also really important to pay attention to the transfer process, but typically speaking, a lot of times if you're banking with an online savings account, you will have to wait roughly 2 days to get your money from your savings account into your checkings account. I would say that that's typical, but if you see any more than 2 to 3 days, I would also be a little bit wary. Something I look for in a high yield savings account is really great customer service. The first high yield savings account that I wanted to talk about is with Wealthfront. Currently it's offering a 1.27% APY and there's no fees. It's FDIC insured. There is a $1 minimum to open the account, so it offers unlimited free transfers from your savings account to your checking account, which is interesting because not all high yield savings accounts offer that. Typically, the limit is around 6 transfers per month. Even though it has the lowest APY on all of the other high yield savings accounts that I will talk about, it is a robo-advisor in the sense that it has other options to actually open up an investment account. It's really nice sometimes to have kind of a streamlined process when using your high yield savings account or opening up an investment account, and that's something that you can find with Wealthfront. The next high yield savings account that I want to talk about is with Ally Bank. It's currently offering a 1.6% APY. Additionally, there's no minimums, there's no fees, and it's FDIC insured. Something really interesting about Ally Bank, you can divvy up your savings account into different buckets. So if you're saving for potentially a home, you can kind of put that money into this little bucket all within your one savings account. The next high yield savings account that I want to talk about is with Discover. Currently, Discover is offering a 1.6% APY, and it has no fees, no minimums, and it's FDIC insured. There's also a mobile app. Lastly, you can also open up a credit card with them. I personally have a credit card with them. The next high yield savings account is Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Currently, Marcus is offering a 1.7% APY, and it has no fees or no minimums, and it's FDIC insured. The next high yield savings account that I want to talk about is with Redneck Bank. I know it kind of has a funny name, but it is legit. You can go and look it up. It is offering a 1.7% APY, and there's no fees, no minimums, and it's also FDIC insured. Next, there's also Capital One. It is offering a 1.75% APY. Something really interesting about Capital One is that there's, in addition to a mobile banking app, there's also physical locations. If you like the idea of being able to walk into a space and talk to someone face to face, their physical locations are not in every state, so I definitely check to see which states they're in and make sure they're in your state before choosing to bank with them because of that purpose. Well, guys, that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Millennial Money Monday. I will be sure to link all the definitions down below, as well as all of the banks with their links. I am not sponsored for any of these banks. These are just my opinions and things that I've looked up and done my research online. I'm also not a financial advisor. Lastly, do not forget to like and subscribe down below and tune in again next week for another Millennial Money Monday episode. All right, bye now.